What's up, everybody? Welcome to Inside the H podcast, where we are Houston everything all the time. I'm your co-host Ike Cuellar, right here with my partner Kush. What's going on, Kush?
What's up, man? Happy Saturday, everybody. We're gonna talk about we got a lot of stuff to talk about with the Rockets, Astros, and Texans. As you guys know, we cover all three sports. First of all, I just want to, start the prayer circle for Demeco Ryans as the new head coach of the Texans, but we'll get into that in a little bit later. We're gonna start off with the Rockets, so I'm gonna let you start off with that.
Yeah, man. Let's jump in. Let's jump into it, man. We got a dub versus the Timberwolves after a 13-game losing streak, which was very satisfying to watch, man. We needed that one real bad. As a fan base, we've been going through rebuilding season slash tanking season, and right now, any positives that you can get from the season, a type of season like this, man, you just got to run with it. Jalen Green got a new career high for 42 points, and really it's looking like he's getting out of that slump that he was in, prior to that, the weeks before that. Just, very optimistic about him and his play after that, man, because, um, you know, there was a lot of times in the game where, he was struggling to kind of find his shot, struggling to just score points. But with the play of Alperen Sengun recently, he has been playing off of that and just getting better with him, in terms of the chemistry there that they have built with one another. So it was great to experience a dub in this season where we only have, 11 games, only 11 wins. So Alp also chipped in there. He was also playing well. He had 21 points, 7 assists, 7 rebounds. So he's still doing his thing. We can always, you know, um, rely on Alp to do his thing because he's gonna eat regardless. I feel he's been really playing with a lot of confidence here lately, and he recently had um, a game where he had a triple double. That was his bobblehead night on Wednesday when we played the Wizards. And to see him like give those dimes up to these players, man, to KJ Martin specifically, anybody else cutting, Tari, Jalen Green, it's just been beautiful to watch. What do you think about Alp's play here in the recent games, Kush?
Yeah, we actually talked about LP, for a few weeks now. And I don't know if you saw this, but we know that Jokic, kind of gave him his praise, a few weeks ago, talking about how the offense should run through him. And then KD recently, that he was on some podcast and the guy asked him, um, who's one of the young like stars in this league that he's been paying attention to and kind of watching how they play, and he said Sengun on the Rockets, which was, if you get praise from KD, that's one of the best players in the league, man. And that's so if I was
Yeah,
Sengun, that would give me a lot of confidence, to just go
thanks.
out there and keep doing my thing. So, but yeah, I think recently he's been showing why we have so much faith in him to for him to develop into the player that we think he can be. And I think it's the same thing with Jalen Green, but in the past few weeks, some fans have kind of like, cooled their jets on Jalen Green a little bit. But like you said, with that 42-point performance, we know he can do that anytime, any day of the week. And it's just a matter of them, being on the court together and playing together. And I think we kind of starting to see that in the last week or so. And I think it's funny because, if you asked me last year who like the duo for the Rockets would be, I would have said KPJ and Jalen Green, but now it's proven to be Sengun and Jalen Green. So, you know, I'm just excited to see both these guys on the court. Like, every time I turn the TV on and watch the Rockets, man, because they're so fun to watch. Sengun, like, we talked about it last week. Whenever he gets the ball in that post, man, and he puts those moves on you, it's like, what are you supposed to do, man? Because he has you looking one way, he goes the other way for an easy basket. He can pass. The defense is going to come with time. He's gotten better with not, you know, getting ticky tack fouls a lot. But, you know, we know the kind of season that the Rockets are having right now. Like, we're not going to win a lot of games, but that is one of the development of Sengun is one of the things that I'm looking forward to seeing, and which I'm just finding joy in right now, because watching the Rockets is not, excuse me, it's not a lot of joy in that right now. But watching Sengun is it's something I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, man, definitely. We're in a type of season where there's not a lot of bright spots for our team right now because we're rebuilding. So any bright spots that we can talk about this team and stay positive, and we're going to do that at all costs because that's why we're Houston everything, man. Because we're loyal and we stay down with our teams through the ups and downs. So, and another bright spot, KJ Martin. We talked about him before here on this podcast as well. He just keeps, doing his thing. He keeps getting better, and he keeps showing you that he should be a starter. I don't know why he's not a starter yet. That's a different discussion. But the guy just needs to be in the starting lineup because he really performs better with the starters. And, he just creates more of a faster pace for the team when he's on the court. And that's what we want, right? Because our team is so young. We want everybody, running and gunning up and down the floor. And he's perfect for that role. And he also knows his role. So, I mean, everything about KJ is just what you want from one of your role players. And I'm just really excited to have him on the team. Hopefully, we keep him, for at least the next couple of years or even longer, hopefully. But I feel like those specifically Shingun and KJ have been one of our two bright spots that we had on the team, this entire season. So, big credit to them that they're still balling, even though, we having a down year and tanking year. So, yeah, man, we're going to move along here and talk about some of the trade rumors that have been going around. I recently saw um, that they were talking about um, trading with Atlanta for John Collins, who is a big that can shoot the ball, and it's a very good player. He's still a young player. I believe he's 25 years old, but I think that for the Houston Rockets, just alone in the contract situation, I don't think it makes sense to go ahead and pull the trigger on that because you would possibly be including some of your own players on there, like KJ, or even a draft asset to make this trade happen. And in my opinion, man, I don't think it's worth it because of the contract. And you have so much cap space for this coming off season that you could play around with, and you could get other players on the team, whether it's a James Harden type of player or other free agents, and you could do a lot of different things with that cap space. And I feel like if you make this trade happen, that money's going to eat up, in that it's going to eat that cap space up and just give you less of that. And I just don't think it makes sense of just the salary cap and what it would do for us moving forward, because I feel like you would probably have to keep him for at least 2 or 3 years, where you're gonna have to be paying him that money, and we're in the rebuilding process right now, and I just don't think it's worth it um, right now at this point. What are your thoughts on that, Kush?
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on that, but first I want to, harken back to KJ Martin because at the beginning of the season, I don't remember how he said he wanted out, he wanted to be traded. So I actually give him a lot of credit for how he's dealt with that the whole season. He's just been balling, going out there, keep doing what he does, and then like with the John Collins trade stuff, I'm 100%. I agree with you because right now, because of the cap space you have this upcoming offseason, I feel like you should just stand pat and not take on any extra salary because you kind of want to save that money to get whichever big free agent that you want to get this offseason. And another part of it is KJ Martin's a good player, man. So I kind of want him on my team. And if you ask me, like, would I rather have John Collins plus the salary that he's taking up or KJ Martin where you're not paying him as much? I'll take KJ Martin just because the Rockets are kind of in one of those spots this season where we know what it is. They're not going to win a lot of games, and I feel like you stay with KJ Martin and then splurge in the offseason rather than take on John Collins' big contract. You don't know how long. It's not like he's a superstar player or like a budding superstar player that is going to be with your core group of guys, you know, and so I'm kind of the opinion that I think you just stand pat, keep KJ Martin, and play out the season, and then get whoever you want to get in the offseason. And that could include like you said, James Harden, Kyrie Irving. I don't know. There's a lot of names out there right now, so I feel like you just stand pat and make your decision in the offseason, whoever you want to sign, instead of making a trade and taking on contracts. And if you are going to make a trade, I would get like expiring contracts so that you have that money coming off the books and you can just spend on whoever you want to spend on.
Yeah, man, I agree. I agree with you, Kush. Because when you think about it, KJ Martin is really like a poor man's John Collins. I think really the only difference is, John Collins could possibly is a better shooter just by a little bit, but everything he does, KJ already does that, and he has chemistry with our team. So I feel like that move is not, it's not necessary, for our team, in terms of um, winning now. Because do I think if we have him on the team, is that going to be, somebody that helps us win right now and kind of just helps us a lot every single game? Like, I don't think that's the case. I don't think he's going to make that much of a difference when where you have KJ already here in the lineup. He plays the three, and now you could still have Jabari and Alp down there playing the 4 and the 5, and you don't have to mess around with their minutes. And KJ could still play the three because he's gotten better as a shooter this season. So you're not losing nothing there. I think more of my of what I wanted, selfishly, was KJ to be a starter, and I think that will happen, probably here in the second half of the season or maybe even next year. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, yeah. As far as the John Collins stuff, like you said, it's I don't want to say it's a lateral move, but it kind of is a lateral move because KJ kind of, like you said, he kind of does the same stuff as, John Collins kind of does the same stuff as KJ does. But with KJ, you don't have that added salary. I think that's the big kicker is that added salary that you have to keep him for a couple of years. And, I don't know if I want to do that, to be honest with you. All right, so let's get into the Houston Texans now. We've been talking about Demeco Ryans for it seems like, since the Texans season ended. But first, I want to get into like the reports we saw earlier this week and then later this week about how the Demeco Ryans has emerged as the Texans' favorite for head coach. And during the week, me and you were talking off the air, and for a while it kind of seemed like Demeco was the guy for us, and it was kind of like, okay, it's just a matter of time till the 49er season ends and we're going to get Demeco. And then a couple of days ago, the Broncos emerged as one of the teams that said Demeco was their favorite. And so I just want to get your thoughts on whenever that news dropped, like, were you kind of like, okay, wait a minute, let's pump the brakes on saying that Demeco is kind of a guarantee to come here? Or were you kind of like, all right, let's just see how it plays out? Because for me, when I saw that, I was kind of like, if it comes down to between the Texans and the Broncos for Demeco, to me, it's a no-brainer for him, because if you're considering the Broncos as a head coach, right, like, you have to fix Russell Wilson, because Russell Wilson has not been very good the past 2 years. And as a first-time head coach, I don't know if you want to have that on your plate, because if you're the Broncos head coach for, let's say they sign him to like a 4 or 5 year deal, right? You're expected to fix Russell Wilson. You don't really have a whole lot of draft picks to deal with that you can build your team. You do have a pretty good defense, but, again, like I said, to me, it's a no-brainer, because the Texans, you can pick your quarterback, you can pick your players. You have some good players on defense, young players that you can, build around. So I just want to get your thoughts on, like, when you saw the news about the Broncos, starting to emerge as maybe Demeco Ryans might want to go there. What were your initial thoughts?
Well, my initial thoughts were that, a lot of these reports that come out, they really are used as leverage moves for like both sides, and, to like negotiate contracts. So, everybody can say something or a certain team, and really doesn't mean much until, it happens and you see, who was the team that had him as a front runner. And clearly for us, he's been our front runner since he interviewed. We interviewed him twice already. And like I said it before on this podcast, I actually said it the night Lovie Smith got fired, that we should interview Demeco Ryans, that we should hire him as our next coach, because it all makes sense. He was a former player here. He was a captain on our team when he was a rookie. So that shows you how much we trusted him, with his leadership skills, on the defense. And, he knows the owner. He knows the organization. He's a fan favorite. It's really a no-brainer. I know me and you talked about it off air, but the Texans have to make this hire, because if they want any chance of getting their fan base back, this is the way to do it. And it's to hire Demeco Ryans as your head coach. You can start there, and literally just like that, you'll have the fan base right back, rooting for the Texans at NRG. There's a lot of times this season when we played at home, you saw how NRG looked, and the seats were empty, bro. There was not a lot of fans in that stadium. And, a lot of that can be from the front office to the players to how we were tanking, and just the type of culture that we had, the bad culture, I should say. But this is the right step to take as an organization, in my opinion, is to hire Demeco Ryans and let him pick his staff. Like you said, let him pick his quarterback, and what he wants to do in the draft. And we move, with his leadership. So I'm really excited to have him as our front runner. You know, I think Denver can still hire him depending on what the contract holds. Like, what are the terms on that, and the years and the money, obviously. But here, he pretty much would be, like calling the shots here, if you would say, like because they'll give him the power to do that. We trust him in doing that. I feel, and the whole city will be really excited about that.
Yeah, and speaking of Cal McNair, it's kind of off topic, but I don't know if you saw this, but he came out to Monster Jam and he was riding around that Monster Jam truck, and I'm just seeing this stuff from Cal McNair where in the past he kind of stayed in the shell as the owner of the Texans. He didn't really make a whole lot of public appearances, but I feel like now in the past couple weeks or this past month he's been out publicly now. He was at the Houston Sports Awards early this week. He was talking to a bunch of guys, and I just feel like he, as an owner, is more comfortable in his own skin now because, starting from number one, this is in the past, but I'm gonna say this: starting from number one, Jack Easterby's not there anymore to, be in his ear about all this stuff, and I feel like now he himself has kind of taken that leadership role of, okay, this is my team, I'm the owner of this team, and so there's a lot of rumblings about is Nick Casario in his ear? Is Nick Casario trying to control the franchise? But I think at this point in time right now, I think I trust Cal McNair to, run the team. And I think that's what he's doing. And, hopefully he hires Demeco Ryans. And, we talked about this off the air earlier. But one of the advantages that the Texans have in the race for Demeco Ryans is Cal McNair's known him for like 10 plus years, right? He knew him when he was a player. He was around him when he was a player. So they know each other. And so I think that's why I feel very confident and comfortable in saying that Demeco Ryan is going to be the head coach, obviously when the 49ers season is over. But earlier this week they um interviewed Mike Kafka for a second time. And I think that's one of the names that's been interesting to me because Mike Kafka, was the quarterback coach for Kansas City. So he knows he's coached Patrick Mahomes. And then he went to the Giants. He coached Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones was at the bottom of the league. He got him to like the midway point of the league last year. So if for some reason they were to not go with Demeco Ryans, which I think would be a bad idea, I think Mike Kafka would be an interesting choice because, a lot of Texans fans are saying, well, the Texans need an offensive guy, right? Because if you look at the four head coaches in the playoffs right now, they're all offensive coaches, right? And so I understand that part. And I think Kafka is interesting because when this thing first started, like nobody was really thinking about Kafka. He, then he started getting brought up in interviews and stuff, and then the Texans interviewed him, and then I was like, okay, if not Demeco, then Kafka would be an interesting choice. But I mean, to be honest, out of the four guys, Demeco, Kafka, Shane Steichen, and Jonathan Gannon, all four of them would be good hires. And right now, based on the last 2 years, I would take, to be honest, I'd take any of the four. But but to me, the best hire would be Demeco. I think we agree with each other on that for all the reasons that you named. And you know, we've got a lot of picks to work with, and I'll say this. I'm so confident that we're gonna get Demeco. Ike, I'm gonna say this. When we get Demeco Ryans, I'm interested to see what we do with the draft and free agency.
Oh yeah, man, that's gonna be an exciting time, man. Y'all make sure and um, tune in because we're gonna have a draft special here around draft time. But I wanted to go back and talk about Cal McNair and just the Texans organization, man. I really like how we've really came out and kind of connected more with our fans, right? Like being more public with our stuff and, you know, just saying and putting out there who we interviewed and, how many times we interviewed them. And like you said, Cal McNair is kind of more out there. There was a radio interview that he did on Sports Radio 610, which I've never really heard an interview from him because most of the time, he doesn't do interviews. So when he did that, I'm like, okay, like he's trying to change the culture with little things here and there. I know there was rumblings about changing our uniforms. So we're doing the little things here and there just to show the fans, like, hey, we care. We do want to get this back to a winning culture, get the team back into the playoffs. And I really like that, man. Like, I appreciate that from the Texans organization because they do care about the fans. They're showing that. And, credit to, Cal McNair and, the front office, for seeing that. But also, um, I wanted to add this about Demeco Ryans is like, let's not forget that he's been a top coordinator here in the last 2 or 3 years. So a lot of times I feel like when you hire these coordinators as your head coach, sometimes they turn out to be, better head coaches than when you hire a head coach who's had experience before because he might not be good after, he won a Super Bowl or he went to the playoffs, etc. Like, look at the Minnesota Vikings head coach. He came from the Rams. They had a good year this year. Just things like that. So I couldn't be more on board with hiring Demeco Ryans for all the reasons that we named, and I'm just really looking forward to the Texans hiring him and who he picks to be his quarterback. I think that's going to be very interesting. And also who he picks for his staff. Offensive coordinator. Is he going to run defense? Because he can do that, as he's clearly shown. So can't wait for that to happen. I wanted to talk about the quarterbacks and the number 2 pick because I'll talk to a lot of Texan fans recently here, and we're talking about if these two, for some reason, let's just say that these two quarterbacks, an organization does not like, the top 2 prospects, would you be willing to get a guy like, Derek Carr to be that bridge quarterback and possibly drafting like a defensive player or a lineman with the second pick or whoever? It could be a wide receiver. And getting a guy in here like Derek Carr to be that bridge quarterback to kind of make us, better than we were last year? Or are you just going into it with the mind frame of, no, we're drafting one of these 2 quarterbacks?
So I'll put it like this: like if Nick Caserio and Demeco Ryans, hopefully, Demeco Ryans feel like they don't 100% love these 2 quarterbacks and they go the route of signing like a Derek Carr or somebody else, then I'm fine with it as long as they feel that way, because you don't want to be in a situation where one guy wants the quarterback, the other guy's like, no, I don't like these other 2 guys, and they try to get cute and get the quarterback, and then it doesn't work out because both sides weren't invested in it. You know what I mean? So, but my feeling on it is I don't think whoever the coach is, whether it's Demeco Ryans or somebody else, is going to go that route unless they like absolutely love Jalen Carter, a receiver, or a defensive end like Will Anderson or something like that. But I think you just get your quarterback whether it's CJ Stroud or Bryce Young, whoever they like, whoever they want to get. Um, but yeah, like as long as the GM and the coach agree 100% on what the correct route they want to go in, and as long as they have confidence in that, then as a fan, I'll have confidence in them. But we talked about CJ Stroud. I actually watched a little bit more of that Georgia game um this past week. And man, I've been a Bryce Young guy this whole time, but damn, I was watching that game and CJ Stroud was just impressing me with the throws he was making,
He
scrambling
stood
outside
out
the
there, right?
pocket. Yeah, he showed out, man. So, I still like Bryce Young, but damn, CJ Stroud's kind of creeping up there a little bit, man. I just got to say that.
Yeah, he's making it hard for you, for all of us, man, because think about it. Georgia won the national championship, and they really were in position to win that game, to beat the national champs, and the throws that he was making, like you don't find that a lot from a lot of these quarterbacks, especially against, these good teams in the SEC in the playoffs, because those games mean more. And, I know Bryce Young went off against Northwestern. I think that's who they were playing. Um, but, that team is not no way near close to Georgia. And not taking anything away from Bryce Young, but, CJ Stroud really did his thing in that Georgia game. So I'm all for drafting him with the number 2 pick. Um, I saw a tweet. I don't know if it was a report that was legit, but they were saying that the Texans were going to do everything in their power to try to get the number 1 pick. And again, I'll come out here and say, like, that doesn't make sense, because why are you going to give up extra, draft assets or picks when you have the number 2 pick? Like, if somebody gets Bryce Young, then you just draft C.J. Stroud. Like, it's that simple, right? You don't need to give away extra picks for that. Like, let them run that clown show. Let them get confused and overanalyze stuff. Let them do that. You just draft the best player available and you move from there. Because, in my opinion, I wouldn't get a guy like like Derek Carr over here. I need to draft a quarterback this year, and it has to be one of those 2 guys. And that's how I'm choosing to build a team if I was the GM, because I just think that for us to be asked the whole year the way we were and to get the number 2 pick, you can't waste that, man. You got to draft a quarterback, and those 2 guys are pretty special in my opinion. So you just got to pull the trigger on that. You got to make that happen.
Yeah,
But
and another thing to watch, we mentioned Derek Carr. Another thing to watch if we get Demeco is, you know, does he want to bring Jimmy Garoppolo or Trey Lance with him? I think that's another thing to watch because, San Francisco has had a bit of quarterback issues these past couple of years with the Brock Purdy thing, the Jimmy G thing, and the Trey Lance thing. So I think that's something to keep our eyes on.
yeah, man, that's definitely something that would make sense there. And even if you could bring those guys in to compete for the quarterback position, like have a open competition for training camp, that's a good thing. Obviously, you don't want to have like 2 or 3 quarterbacks on a team that legitimately could be starters somewhere else, because there's always a saying that goes, if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks. So there's a reason why guys are backups and why guys are starters. So we'll see what happens with that. But I want to get your picks for this weekend's championship Sunday. Who you think is gonna win and go to the Super Bowl, Kush?
So AFC is interesting because there's been a lot of talk about Patrick Mahomes' injury. If he's 100%, I'm picking the Chiefs, but I don't think he is 100%. And Joe Burrow is undefeated against Patrick Mahomes, so I'm going the Bengals to get to the Super Bowl, go on the road in Arrowhead and win that game. In the NFC, I'm going the Eagles. The Eagles are just freaking loaded on both sides of the ball. Jalen Hurts is just ridiculous. He's had such a great season this year. Um, the thing with the 49ers is just so interesting because Brock Purdy has just not fucked it up for them yet, you know? I keep waiting for him to throw the pick or turn the ball over or lose a game for them, but that hasn't happened yet. Um, he has to go on the road to Philadelphia and win a game, and you know I just don't see that happening. No matter how good the defense is, I like the Eagles to win that game. So I think it's going to be the Bengals and the Eagles in the Super Bowl, man. What about you?
I want to root for Cincinnati so bad. I want them to win so bad, but that just means the Kansas City Chiefs are going to win the game. So I got Kansas City winning, and then on the NFC, I have Philadelphia winning that game. And I want the Bengals to win. Like I said, I like Joe Burrow. Like he's him. He's been doing his thing now for the last 2 years, taking his team to, deep in the playoffs. But I just feel like Kansas City's going to pull it out because, I feel like Patrick Mahomes is going to ball out, depending on how his injury is, like you said. Just because I want the Bengals to win so bad, Kansas City's going to win. That's how it always works. Um, and I think it'll be a great thing, if Philly wins and knocks the 49ers out, because that'll be quicker for us to hire Demeco Ryans, right? Like have him on speed dial as soon
Hey,
as they
eyes
lose.
on the prize, man. Eyes always on Demeco Ryans for the
You know what I'm
Texans.
saying? Yeah, like have him on speed dial and hit him up as soon as the clock says 000. I mean, that's being dramatic, but you know what I mean. And we just gotta hire him ASAP, and I think we'll have good things to look forward to as Texan fans, for that. But if that's the Super Bowl, if it's Philly and Kansas City, I got Philly winning the Super Bowl with Jalen Hurts being Super Bowl MVP because he's from Houston, Texas, baby. You know what I'm saying? We got to root for anybody that's from Houston. So I'm making my pick right now, and I'm saying the Philadelphia Eagles are going to go all the way.
Yeah, I think regardless of who they play in the Super Bowl, I think the Eagles are gonna win. It sucks for Joe Burrow because he would have been, if my prediction comes right, he would have been there twice and lost both times, which is like, damn, as a young quarterback, like you know how it is in the NFL, like you never know when you're to get back to the Super Bowl. So
Yeah,
when you
man.
get there, you gotta win it. So, we'll see how it shakes out, man.
Yeah, man. Let's move on to the Houston Astros here. We just hired our new general manager, Dana Brown, and I think that it was a great hire, Kush. Um, we got everything that we were looking for in a candidate. He's with that hire, he's the only current general manager right now that's African American, and the only second time in MLB history that there's a general manager that's African American. So I think that's really special. You know what I'm saying? That's like the Houston Astros as an organization. They really pick out the best candidates and the best people for the job. So I think we got our guy there. I know he's a heavy analytics, like savvy type of guy, which in our organization, we use that a lot. When we play, all these teams. That's heavy in our plan. Um, all the analytics stuff. He's a great talent, like evaluator. Like he knows what he's doing. He's been, in baseball for over 30 years, and he was a former college player. So this is exactly who you want in this position. And credit to the Houston Astros for making this hire, and Jim Crane for making this hire. Man, they just I really feel like we got our guy. What do you think about it, Kush?
Yeah, man. First of all, I want to say respect to respect and kudos to Jim Crane because I know a lot of Astros fans were kind of like, okay, who are we gonna hire as GM? First, it was Brad Osmus, which I don't think would have been a good hire. And everybody was freaking out on Twitter. All of our Astros Twitter friends were freaking out, and I was like, guys, let's calm down. Like I tweeted this earlier, when we tweeted or when we signed Dana Brown to become the GM of the Astros, like I 100% trust Jim Crane, and he showed why I have that trust in him with the hiring of Dana Brown. He ran the Braves organization for a while. As we know about the Braves, in the past few years, they brought up so much young talent. Michael Harris, Spencer Strider, Grissom. They have really done a great job of bringing along this young talent. And if he can do that with Houston, man, the window is wide open right now because the one thing that I'll say about, being successful in Major League Baseball is you have to be able to bring up the young talent like we have been doing. Example, Framber Valdez, Christian Javier, Jeremy Pena, all these guys we've been able to develop, and we've seen the fruits of that labor. This past season, how they performed not only in the regular season but in the postseason, and that resulted in us winning the World Series. And so I think it's a really good hire. I'm excited to see what he can do, and he's proven what he can do as a scout. So again, I just want to say I 100% fully trust Jim Crane, and let's develop this young talent, find this young talent, and let's go win some more World Series, man. That's all I got to say about that.
Hell yeah, and I like what he said when he got hired. He said we want to be gritty about winning. We want to keep this winning culture and keep these trophies coming in. He didn't say it like I did right now, but I'm just saying that's what he means. Keep winning titles with this team that we have, these players. We're more than capable of that. We have the pitching staff, the hitters are there. Let's make this happen again. Let's go back to back. That sounds great. I also want to add is this makes only the second time in MLB history where you have a black general manager and a black manager running your team. So I think that's pretty special, it's itself, and it shows, you know, how Jim Crane trusts everybody on the team, the front office, the coaches, the players to do their job because they pick out the best candidates, to do their job. So very excited about the hire, and I cannot wait for baseball season to start for the home opener. I know you're going to be there, Kush. I'm going to be there. Um, I'm not going to join in your challenge of the 3 margaritas. I'm just saying that. Um, I've learned my lesson, but I always like to bring them up, on our pod because that's a real thing. Like that's a challenge, bro. Like that's something that you really did, and yeah, I will not be joining, sir. I'm just gonna say that.
Hey, man, I just want to say, like, doing 3 in 1 game, that takes a lot of practice, number one. And, during the playoff game, we played the Seattle Mariners, game 2, we were there. And, dude, I had to drink so much water the night before and the morning of. I was
Yeah,
disciplined.
no doubt.
I was disciplined, um, the discipline is very important because you can't, like, pre-game, you can't be getting too wild, because if you do and you do the 3 at the game, man, it's not going to end well for you. So, you know, I just want to say it takes hard work, takes hard discipline, and I may or may not be doing the 3 margarita challenge opening day. You guys will just have to find out. So I'm just going to put that out there.
I will happily be the spectator out there. I will watch and record everything that's going on. I will cheer on. I said earlier, make sure you guys tune in for the draft here on our podcast. Man, we're gonna have a special covering the draft, the NFL draft. And with that, we're gonna end it. Thank you everybody again for tuning in and listening. Make sure that you guys subscribe to our podcast on Spotify or Apple, wherever you get your podcast from. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at Inside the H Pod. And yeah, man, that's till next time.
Yeah, I just want to let you guys know we are on YouTube. It's at Inside the H Pod on YouTube, so go ahead and check us out. And with that, let's end this thing, man. Hopefully, we're talking about Demeco Ryans as a new head coach of the Houston Texans come next week's episode. And we'll see you guys later, man. Inside the H, bro.
Inside the H.